and gentlemen, welcome to Point Black. And we finally found that missing person. We put a what they call it, an Amber Alert out last week.
I was on the cornflake box, the milk carton.
Milk carton.
Look on the milk carton.
We was trying to find out where the Reverend Darrell Gray go. He said he was in Atlanta, and we're going to take him at his word, but he didn't bring a note.
No, I got one. I'm gonna bring it to the next one. I'm getting it notarized.
You getting it? Okay.
Getting it notarized because I know how y'all. I know how y'all are.
Getting it notarized.
I know how y'all are.
I'm glad to hear that. You know, ladies and gentlemen. Oh,
Facebook fell.
Facebook fell.
Down. Facebook down.
Hey, Elon Musk is gonna sue you. Is it Elon? Who owns Facebook? Is it? I don't know who owns it. Whoever owns it gonna sue him. I was thinking. I thought it was Elon on every damn thing else. Zuckerberg. Oh, that's right. Mark is gonna get you, man. You ain't got Mark to think about. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this show just deteriorated.
I don't have Mark.
We just deteriorated. He just said,
I don't have Mark on my
Mark
mind.
Zuckerberg is his name, right?
I ain't worried about Mark.
Okay. Well, you know, Mark is my friend,
Mark
and
got,
I take
Mark
that
got enough
personal.
issues. I'm gonna leave Mark to the Congresswoman.
Ooh, he's been
I'm
there.
gonna leave Mark.
He's been there and he's
I'm
done
gonna leave
that.
Mark to the
He's
Congresswoman.
been there and he's done. Hey, let me open up the show this way, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say this, because I think sometime we may have some listeners who I really want them to understand the gravity of today's conversation. Because I want to remember, imagine some folks come to this country over in a boat, a couple of boats, 3 boats.
3 boats.
And they get off and decide that they're going to take it over. And they get to organizing, and the folks in Britain got mad at them. They organized and fought them back. They fought and took stuff from the Indians, and then they organized some more, and they created a Congress, a form of government.
Mm-hmm.
And we talking about 400 years ago.
Yeah.
They created this organization, this form of government that's just been going, and they created. The outcome has been the largest and one of the greatest and most powerful governments on the planet of this earth. We are bigger and badder than everybody. And that government is made up of a handful of people compared to the whole country. The Congress has the House of Representatives, and we have the Senate. And folks, and everything that we do, everything that is controlled and is important to us comes through that body of law. Those folks get together and deliberate and discuss and vote, and they decide the fate of the country.
They determine everything from birth to death.
Everything. And imagine this. Now, I just told you that story, and imagine you get somebody, little black girl playing in the streets in St. Louis, grows up, goes through life, as we all do, single mother, activist, goes to get degrees, fights, but comes from, let's be clear, but comes from the same cut of the cloth that 90% of us do,
Right.
including myself. And they become one of those persons who get to sit in that room and make those decisions.
Yes.
And so we have that person on the show today, and representative, based on that office, I'm going to call you Representative Bush throughout this show, because I want folks to understand the gravity and the uniqueness and the power of the office.
That's right.
Well, I was going to call her Congresswoman Bush.
Okay, I'm calling Representative. You call Congresswoman.
Right,
Bottom line is, we're going to make sure that folks understand that we have the power of the country sitting here at the mic with us. And that deserves the utmost respect, and we're going to try to give you that throughout the show.
But we're going to definitely, we're not going to try. As a matter of fact, listen, anybody that knows the Congresswoman from the 1st Congressional District in Missouri knows that you don't have to give her anything. She's going to demand her respect because she has earned her respect. And I remember one time under the arch, she quoted a very famous quote about the chair. So you don't have to give me a chair. I'll bring my own.
That's right. That's right. I said it and I meant it and I did it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that voice you just heard is the voice of Congresswoman for the 1st Congressional District.
Yes.
Mrs. Cori Bush.
That is
Welcome to the show.
Cori Bush
thank
married.
you.
Cori Bush.
Married. Oh,
Yeah,
get me
I
together.
was married now.
I was married now. I was married now.
He put a ring on it.
He did.
I'm just saying. I'm
Yes.
just saying.
Thank you all for having me. I am super excited, and it is such an honor to be able to be the representative and the Congresswoman for Missouri's 1st District. First of all, just because I'm from St. Louis, I'm from the community. Like you said, Adolphus, I am from the same bricks that the rest of us are from, and I have not lost sight of that. Like, I want to always keep that in my heart and before my face, who I am and where I come from. And so let me say this. When I was born, my family lived on a horseshoe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where we
The horseshoe?
On the horseshoe, yeah. So
I know about the horseshoe.
Look at here.
They wiped it out, too.
It's gone. Yeah, it's gone. But I'm from the community and I am still a part of the community, and I wanted to bring that to DC. And so that's what I've been able to do, and I want to continue to do that. One thing about it is you can get to Congress and get so caught up in, first of all, how to make things work in a way to where you're safe and things are easy, and you don't have to rock any boats. You can just be there and show up to vote and, do what you're told. Or you can prioritize your community and make it about the people and not about yourself. And so that's what I vowed to do. I had a great example. I have a great example in my dad, Earl Bush, who was an alderperson in Northwoods in the county. But that's who I wanted to be, and that's who I'll continue to be. Because St. Louis, look, I'm so St. Louis.
I heard that.
Yeah. My question, and Congresswoman, I've watched you grow politically. I would say the political giant that you become, and I mean that very affectionately. I mean, I think there's no one that can deny your voice in Washington. No one at all. What did you find, when you went there? And Adolphus said it, young black girl growing up, I'll say in the hood, growing up in the hood, single mom, 2 kids, nurse,
Yes.
pastor, the things that you've accomplished. But you've seen some dark sides too.
Yes.
When you got there, what was most surprising? I mean, because I think all of us, are bright-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them. Now, you definitely won't remember this movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
No.
No, that's Jimmy Stewart. Now you ask Errol about that one. Errol
Okay.
remember that one.
Okay.
But Jimmy Stewart Goes to Washington, bright-eyed, wanting to change the world, and feeling, coming out of the land of Lincoln and feeling that, the House of Representatives, the voice of the people, and I can make a difference. What was the most surprising thing that you encountered when you got there?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So first I'll say is, so you go through the orientation. It's for a few weeks before you're sworn in. And so you have to do this orientation that takes a couple of weeks. It's 2 weeks first, and then you have some other stuff to do for another 3 weeks into December. So all of a sudden now in November, if you were working a full-time job, you can't. And then you don't get paid from the House of Representatives because you're not sworn in yet. So now you go from, November, all of December, not making any money. Mm-hmm. If you're, a regular person like I am. Then you enter Congress. So you're sworn in. You're doing all of this work ahead of time and you're not getting paid. Then you're sworn in on January the 3rd. No health care. So you don't get health care for the first full month. You don't get paid for the first full month. My first paycheck was February the 1st.
Oh, wow.
So November, December, January, you first get paid in February. But remember, you got to have a home. You got to get a home in D.C. My rent in D.C. is 3 times what I pay here to live in St. Louis.
Right.
And so all of that is just so, I had to go I was a nurse. I had to go buy a whole bunch of suits and, have that type of clothing. It's cost so much. And then having a home in 2 different places. So because we go back and forth every week, I got to have a full wardrobe in D.C., a full wardrobe in St. Louis, toiletries in St. Louis, toiletries in D.C. So people don't know, like, all of that. Like, that's just the basic part of it. The other thing is, so people are like, oh, well, you make $174,000 a year. Yeah, but when most of it is going to being able to live, for my job, that makes it tough. But the other thing is this. My 3rd day in office, so I went in thinking, like you said, Rev, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to tackle living wage. I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to tackle that. I'm going to tackle police reform. Like all of these things.
Right.
But then my 3rd day, so we were sworn in late on a Sunday night on the 3rd, my first swearing in. On that Wednesday, 1 p.m., the insurrection on the U.S. Capitol happened.
That's right.
My 3rd day. And it wasn't even a full 3rd day. It was 1 o'clock. We didn't have water, snacks, anything in our office. We were shut down at 1 o'clock, about 1:30. Lockdown. I barricaded me and my staff in the office, and we were locked down until 10:30 that night. So after that, just the idea that then that was the baseline for what working in Congress was. A very hostile, aggressive, a very, I'll say, dangerous place to work. And so we have to navigate that every single day, not just me, but my staff.
Got it. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more on Point Black. We have Representative Cori Bush from the 1st Congressional District in the studio. And we're back. Representative, you talked about day 3 in the House. The insurrection takes place, and I'm dying to ask this question.
Yes.
Popped in my head.
Mm-hmm.
How different is it from the insurrection that was going on the outside than what we hear and see on TV that is going on in the inside when you all are deliberating in Congress?
Yeah, look,
wow.
It's wild. I'll say one thing though. At least we know with what's happening on the inside, there is an end point. We know what that end point is. At some point, this hearing has got to shut down, or they're going to dismiss us. Something is going to happen. With the insurrection, we just didn't know we didn't know how long that was going to take. We didn't know when it would be over. But inside the House. And you all have to know that what is on those video clips, what's on TV, is not even the worst of it. Oh. That's what's wild is that, that's what makes it out. But some of this stuff is because it goes on for so long. Some of these hearings can go on for hours and hours, or it starts late at night, so all of that doesn't make it across, into the general public. Right. But the wild things that are said, but also the most racist, fascist, misogynistic things I have ever heard in my life. Things that don't just come across on the phones when people call to go off on me and give me death threats, but stuff. These things are being said by people who were elected to represent
your colleagues.
Humans. Yeah,
right. Your colleagues.
Right. And they're saying, and they believed, and this is the thing. Now they're trying to out extreme the other. So who can be the bigger fascist? Who can be the bigger white supremacist? That's what's happening right now. And they're very loud and very proud, even to the point to where it's even gotten physical.
Is that to get Trump support? I mean,
yes.
and I hear because even across the country, Congresswoman, in statewide elections and even some congressional elections, it seems like the Republicans that are being primaried are being primaried because they have not been conservative enough.
Exactly. That's what's happening. Not only that, they're being primary, and some, because they know they're going to be primary, they're just retiring, or they're just deciding, I'm going to go do something else. Right. And so the Republicans that are leaving, so many of them have just said, I can't deal with this climate. And so the House Freedom Caucus has really taken over a lot. They are pretty much, for lack of a better word, holding Congress hostage in a lot of ways, especially the Republican conference. And we expect for it to not get, for this to not get better before it gets worse. We know that more people are running right now. that are the more Marjorie Taylor Greenes, more
Right.
Lauren Boeberts. Right now, they're running.
Well, of course, I know you have heard and aware of your opponents and other folks talk about resources coming to the community, and I see the press conferences and the stuff where you have participated and helped. Let's talk about some of those things and why you feel important about some of the ones you've been able to help.
Yes. So one of the things that I have at my disposal is the ability to be able to bring dollars back to St. Louis, and that is hugely important. So I'm there to bring those federal dollars back to the community and to be able to provide a pathway for those dollars to get to the people, the organizations that are doing the work, the people who have the greatest need. And so I'm proud to say that we've delivered over $2 billion in 3.5 years since I've been there, and that is a huge win for St. Louis. And, I know that there was just some media articles or whatever saying that, or even a segment saying that I didn't really bring the $2 billion to the community. Like, oh, well, maybe this isn't right. Maybe. No, I'm not going to lie to the community. We've brought over $2 billion. It was important because some of this money directly funded the programs that so many of the people that we know need. And so when we look at youth in need, we know youth in need takes care of children and youth, and it's in their name, that have a need. So making sure that emergency shelter is in place and that they have the resources to continue on. It was a priority to be able to help fund that. Operation Food Search, funding them. One of the other ones that was really huge, $3 million for the brick. And so Dr. Punch, all the work that they're doing to help, when we talk about crime prevention, as we're doing the work for to prevent violence in the community, we also have to be there to help people medically. Dr. Punch is working on that. I have we've given so much, $150 million to the north side. $150 million, $37 million of that going into workforce development. And so over and over, Affinia Healthcare, $2 million for them for their New Ferguson location. Another $1 million for CARE STL. They're working on their new location in the Ville. So this is great for the community.
And this stuff is posted.
Absolutely.
Folks can find it.
Yes, you can find it. It's on our website. You can go on our website and see all of our press releases, but even all of the dollars. We just have it laid out. We sent out a letter to 100,000 people over the last week, letting them know, a couple weeks, letting people know exactly where these dollars have gone. And actually, I'll say this. It's really more than the $2 billion that we're saying, over $2 billion. It's just, money continues. We're continue to have money rolling into the community.
Gotcha.
How do we, how do you respond, Congresswoman? Because like I said, being a witness to the work that you've done, and I'll say your rise, for lack of a better word, politically. You fought political giants. The reality is, in the beginning, you're talking about the Clay family. That was, a dynasty political family. I used the word dynasty. And then in the second race, the Roberts family, another traditional family political dynasty. There are those who say, well, the progressive agenda in this race. The concern that the progressive agenda and efforts might derail the Democratic Party and end up causing Trump to sneak in. How does I don't want to say the squad, because I think the progressive element in this country, and every time I say progressive, Adolphus cringes. But because as I say, when we talk about progressive, it's not limited to politics, so how do you respond to those who are concerned that the progressive agenda, the left wing agenda, may cause enough friction within the party to allow, as Adolphus said, when we talk about democracy, the biggest threat to democracy is that guy who used to be president, the convicted felon, How do you respond to that? How do you bring people at ease if even that's the goal? How do we reconcile that?
Yeah, so the thing is, so it was a big progressive movement that got Joe Biden elected in the first place. It was because even during a pandemic that was disproportionately killing Black and brown people in this country, killing the essential workers, killing people who were low-wage workers, killing our seniors who are the most vulnerable in a lot of ways, still turned out the vote and showed up to the polls to make sure that Joe Biden won. The millions of people who protested in the streets for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many others, those folks still organized to be able to make sure people were showing up to the polls and that those folks were putting their vote for Joe Biden. And so first of all, that's how he got elected. They helped him to get that to win the Democratic election. So now those same people, many of those same people are saying, Mr. President, we just want you to hear us. You heard us when we said we will show up for you and vote for you, if you're going to be true to who you say you are. And you're not Donald Trump. And the people showed up and they did that.
And you're not Donald Trump.
Exactly. And now the people are saying, hey, we don't want bombs dropping on babies. We don't want babies' heads blown off. We don't want people bodies buried up under rubble. We have seen over 40,000 Palestinians killed, many injured, tens of thousands injured, more than 200,000 buildings destroyed. We don't want that, and we don't want it with U.S. taxpayer dollars. We're talking about $5 million from St. Louis City alone. We're talking about millions from the state of Missouri. People are saying, why my tax dollars are being used to go purchase bombs, to go hurt people in another country, when right now in St. Louis, we have people who are sleeping on the street. Right now in St. Louis, we have people who don't have access to health care. We have seniors who need air conditioners. We have needs right here in this community. Why can't those tax dollars be put to use here? And so people are saying, the progressives are saying, listen to us. We're not saying that we're not going to support you. Now some have made the decision that now it's too late, it's too far gone. But there are some that are saying, look, we just want you to hear us and we want you to stop, because Netanyahu cannot run the United States. Netanyahu cannot be the one making the decision, about what happens with our tax dollars, because it feels that way to a lot of people. So that's what it's saying. And the thing is, you can't blame the voter if the president doesn't win. You can't blame the voters, because the voters, it'd be different if the voters were silent. And if the voters weren't saying anything and then just said, okay, well, I'm not going to show up to vote. The voters started months ago saying, Mr. President, we want you to hear us and please call for a ceasefire and get a ceasefire done, because if we can save lives now, we'll save democracy in November.
Are we closer to that? I mean, I think from Adolphus, I know you'll chime in as I'm looking at it. Because when you look at the candidates, and particularly for this race, and you're the fourth candidate that we've had in, and thanks to iHeartRadio and Point Black and these stations who make it very clear that our job is to inform.
Yes.
And so people need to hear this, because as you said, the fear is Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. The fear is not only what Donald Trump will do in America, but what another Donald Trump presidency will do around the world. Do you feel that the current president has heard? Do you feel that? And I'm talking about of late. Do you feel that there's been any movement?
Yeah, well, first of all, he has called for a ceasefire, and I will say, let me say, it's the vice president, Kamala Harris, who came out first publicly, saying that the administration was calling for
another
a ceasefire.
Another little sister from the hood.
And so I have to give her props. She came out first for the administration saying that. And then the president came out publicly. And so they are pushing for a ceasefire. We know that they are working for a ceasefire. And so that is different, because before, let me say, when I came out, I am the lead sponsor of the Ceasefire Now resolution in the United States Congress. I'm the lead sponsor, and my co-lead is Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in the U.S. Congress. And so when we came out on October 16th and introducing the legislation because we wanted to see Israelis and Palestinians alive, and people tried to say, oh, you're anti-Semitic. No, what we're saying is we want everybody alive. We're trying to save people. We're not trying to harm, like say it's okay to harm some and then other, to keep others, with safety. So, but now, so at that time they called us repulsive and disgraceful, I believe it was. But now the president is calling for a ceasefire. His administration is calling for a ceasefire. So there is movement. We got to get it done, and we have to stop sending the arms. We can't continue to do that and put people in harm's way. I look at it like this: if there was somebody in another country who could make a decision, who could speak up. If bombs were dropping on St. Louis and it was, okay, we'll drop bombs on the north side, we won't drop on the south side, and there's somebody over in another country that could make a decision about if bombs are dropping at all, I would want them to speak up to save my St. Louis.
And you know what, Representative, and some folks would say North St. Louis look like the bomb has already dropped.
I got $150 million to help fix that.
I know. But my question is that when we look at the news lately, we're seeing kids 15, 14, some as young as 13, 17 years old, in stolen cars and involving guns and things like that. And this last group, the kid that got police had wound up having to kill him. That group was from North County, and I tell people all North County, North St. Louis is just one big village. Yeah, it is. Even though folks try to divide it up. But I mean, based on what's going on with the kids today and education, how do you see the administration moving to address that? Say Biden gets reelected.
Yes.
We want him. Folks, I'm voting for Joe Biden.
Go. He did a full disclaimer.
I'm
now,
voting
y'all.
for Joe Biden.
It wasn't a secret. His views do not represent the views of iHeartRadio or this program.
I horse my uncle. Uncle iHeart. You didn't know that, Uncle iHeart. But I'm just saying, how do you see going forward the administration truly trying to tackle that problem? Because for some reason or other, our kids are lost. It seems that they just lost. They're out here taking chances they don't need to take. Right.
Yeah. So one, I will say that the administration opened up a first of its kind, I believe, office. It's their. St. Louis has the Office of Violence Prevention in the city, so they opened up one within the administration.
Okay,
so that just happened this year
in Washington.
D.C. Maxwell Frost, my colleague from Florida, who was part of March for Our Lives, that movement. He helped work with the administration on that. Plus, there has been a big investment in community violence prevention dollars to be able to get to the communities that need it the most. And I'll say this, what I was surprised about, this when we go back to what you had asked, Rev, about like things that surprised me when I entered Congress. So my office was just digging through stuff, just trying to find out how we can get more money for St. Louis. And this was one of the buckets we wanted to work on was community violence prevention money. And we reached out to the administration, and one of the agencies told us, we said, how do we get this money? Like, we've seen money going to all of these other cities, and those cities that don't even have the crime rate we have and such, not only homicides, but also, thefts and stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
They said, well, yeah, you all don't get money. And I said, yeah, why? What can we do to get? They said, St. Louis never asked for it.
Oh.
I said, you have got to be kidding me. So that is another thing. So there is money out there. We just have to know where it is, and we know we have to go for it. But the president has made an effort through the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, a full investment of millions of dollars. That money, there is money that is for St. Louis as it relates to that. Also, his Build Back Better Act that I was really, really pushing for, trying to get that done, and I keep getting been slammed. People say, "Oh, if there's an ad on TV right now, oh, Cori didn't support the infrastructure package." That is a lie. It's false, and that's from the devil.
About that too. I'm glad you
it's
said
of the
that.
devil. You know, that is not true. But the thing is, there was a huge investment for community violence prevention money that was tucked in the Build Back Better Act, which is Joe Biden's bill that he wrote. And so I wanted to get that across because that was so much more money for St. Louis.
You know what? And I'm glad Adolphus pivoted to that question too, because as I said, we've had 4 candidates here, and I think that to the credit of all of them, at least at this point, it has been more each candidate saying, "This is what I represent," versus the darkness of political campaigning. So we haven't seen any of that. Congresswoman, I know that when you ran. There was some darkness in one of those campaigns that came in at the end of the campaign, and it backfired.
It backfired tremendously.
There was some darkness that came out at the latter, maybe couple of weeks.
The last 2 weeks,
right,
yes.
of that campaign, and it did backfire. So I do want to say on behalf of voters that I know I'm pleased that the candidates, for the most part, have said, "Listen, this is who I am. This is what I represent." And so, in addition to what Adolphus talked about and what you talked about, the ceasefire, which seems to be getting all of the oxygen, the media oxygen, the difference, and we know that you and some of your opponents may differ on that, but where else do you differ?
Oh, absolutely. So let me just say, as it relates to ceasefire, yes, me and and Wesley Bell in particular, we differ on that. He doesn't talk about it now because the president has come forward and asked for a ceasefire, so he won't even say the word anymore. And to me, that is sad because run on what you said. Be who you say you are. But the other thing is, so we differ in that I do not take money from, I am not funded by Republican mega donors. I believe that your values show up in who you take money from. And Wesley Bell his mega donors are Republicans. They are Donald Trump mega donors. And this is information that anyone can find on Federal Election Commission. There are articles about it. You can Google it. He takes money from Donald Trump mega donors. He was running against Josh Hawley first, and then when he was offered $20 million to run against me, he switched to running against me, and now he takes Josh Hawley donor money. Wesley Bell, an article just dropped. He used to be the campaign manager for a Republican who was anti-abortion, who was trying to ban abortion. And so back in the day, he was the campaign manager for someone who was trying to be the Republican for this particular seat. That person was running to change this from a Democratic seat to a Republican seat, and he was the campaign manager. Now he's trying to use that same money, that Republican money, to win this seat. So that's one of the differences. So you can't say, I'm a progressive Democrat or I'm even a Democrat when your big funding comes from the Republicans, because you got to pay the piper at some point. Also, I am, I've been fighting for the things that I'm working on in Congress for years. I didn't just decide, to pay attention to the climate crisis or a family wage, redlining, any of that once I got into Congress. This is stuff I was working on beforehand. This is why people knew me. People knew of Cori Bush fighting for justice and police accountability and reform before I ever entered Congress. People knew of me fighting for Medicare for all. They knew of me fighting against, it was a fight for 15 then. Now we're pushing for 25, but people knew I was that person before I ever entered Congress, and I did it on my volunteer time. It wasn't, I would work my nursing job all day, and then at night I was out on the streets helping our unhoused community members, making sure that they were getting to a shelter or that we could get them, the help they needed on the ground. I was volunteering my time because that's where my heart was. And so when I was running and when I entered Congress, I could do that work differently because I had been a part of that. I knew it. Some of that I dealt with myself. I am someone, I've been unhoused living in the car, with my 2 children. I've worked low wage. I've someone who was saddled with medical debt and student debt. I've been, I'm the person that I'm working to help. So I can't say that about my opponent. Where has been his work on these issues beforehand? To just jump out and say, I want to run for this seat because somebody offered you $20 million. So that is the difference. I'm not taking money from anybody who wants me to go against my values, because at some point they are going to expect me to vote those values that they paid for.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more on Point Black. We have Representative Cori Bush in the house.
In the house.
And we're back. Representative, I got a double question for you. And it's an easy one.
But can you hold that point? We need to make sure that our audience know that if they want to complain about anything that Adolphus says or does, they can always go to the iHeartRadio app. They can punch in Point Black, and they can just talk back to us. They can just let us know what's going on, or they can go to any social media platform. They can go to Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. They can go to YouTube. They can go to Instagram. They can go to Facebook. And all you have to do is type in at Point Black STL.
They can go to the corner liquor store.
Well, you'll probably find through it there. See, you don't even have to type anything there. Just go there. Just go there. But you can we're always looking for your responses and for your input. If there's a show idea you think we ought to be dealing with, if there's somebody that you think we should be interviewing, please let us know. We value the thoughts and the opinions and the support of our listening audience.
It's a double question. One is, the folk try to imply that based on some of your votes, that you and the president don't have a working relationship. So I want you to talk about your relationship with the president. And 2 is, Netanyahu is coming. He's coming to your house to speak.
Goodness.
The people's house.
The people's house.
No, it's her house when he gets there.
Yeah,
And so I would love for you to talk about, if you had a chance to talk to him directly, what would that conversation be like? So
okay,
good. But
okay.
What's up with you and Biden?
Yes. And so one thing about it is, when people say that, especially when challengers say that, it's because, number one, they don't know how Congress works. So let me just, it's sad. You want the position, but you don't even know how it works. President Biden and I do have a working relationship. Actually, one of my bills that we talk about quite a bit, President Biden, because it wasn't going to make it through Congress because of just how divided it is, and he liked the bill so much. We worked with him directly. Myself and Senator Markey worked with him to get this bill done. He ended up folding it in to hit one of his executive orders just to make sure that the bill got across. He's done that, but he's done that more than once. So, and then also, I have had calls with the president directly, where he'll say, "Hey, Cori, let's talk about this." Or the vice president, she'll call and say, "Well, the president wanted me to ask you about this." So we do have a working relationship, absolutely. But the thing is this: many members of Congress have areas where they disagree with the president. The thing is this: the president didn't elect us. Our communities did. My first allegiance and my loyalties are to the people of St. Louis, because that's who I represent. And I represent them by letting the president know exactly what we need. And so the president honors that, because the thing is, he is a better president when he knows what we need so that he can do the work to make sure that he helps those people. And so the other thing is this, in order to have the president speaking to the needs of St. Louis, and everybody knows I get up and I say St. Louis and I rise whenever I get up to a podium in D.C., the president is then able to see the first thing on his mind, when certain things come up, is always St. Louis comes to his mind, because I have put that out there so much. But now, as we talk about Netanyahu, absolutely ashamed that Netanyahu is coming to D.C., to Congress.
Now the Republicans invited him, though, right?
The Republican speaker invited him, but he
right.
was also welcomed by Democratic leadership as well in the House and in the Senate. And so that was pretty disturbing. And so, if I had the chance to speak to Netanyahu directly, you know how when somebody hurts your child and you got that opportunity to say something to him, like that would be the place that I would start in my heart. That's where my heart would be. So what would come out of my mouth, I can't even say, but he deserves.
Use a mama.
He did. Yes, that's would be it, because you hurting people, and that and I know what that's like to be hurt and nobody speaking up for me, and so I have to speak up for the people in the same way.
I mean, but not to cut you off, but I'm just saying, say you had him in the room to yourself, and you had a chance to move his heart or change his mind.
Oh, well, okay, because I was gonna say he deserves the hate. He deserves prison. But if I had the heart to, well, the thing is, I would have to get him to see, which he does not want to see, that Palestinian people are human. They are fully human, just like Israelis are, just like Jewish people are. They are fully human. The thing is this, and I would have to help him see the same way that black folks was deemed not fully human right here, not only in the United States, but right here in St. Louis, the Dred Scott v. Sanford case,
right?
Where five of those Supreme Court judges enslaved free African people right here in St. Louis.
Yes.
They said that we were not American citizens. In the same way, I would have to work to make sure that Netanyahu understood that Palestinians deserve just as much dignity and safety and peace as anyone else. But because we know he does not want to hear that message, my message would then be to The Hague. How do I make a citizen's arrest?
Listen, I know, Congresswoman, like, you're an ordained minister, and part of our show, our AM piece is with Hallelujah 1600, and the FM one is 100.3. To those who listen on the gospel station, and we believe in redemption, we believe in self-reflection, we believe in all of that. As you look back at your congressional life, as you self-reflect, because I think that people oftentimes see folk as larger than life, but I think there's so many people who want to know that these folk who are making decisions on our behalf, are acting like humans and not superhumans.
Yes.
That as you self-reflect in your congressional life, the greatest regret, if any, do you have one?
In my congressional life, greatest regret, I try not to have regrets, but I will say that sometimes I wish that I could use my voice a lot harder and a lot just like make it go a lot further. And what I mean by that is, so when we were told that 11 million people were about to be at risk for evictions during the pandemic, and they gavelled Congress out and said, okay, go ahead and go on vacation. We didn't get it done. The president didn't get it done. CDC didn't get it done. And I was broken because I'm thinking, I was unhoused. I know what that's like. And now we're going to, I know what it's like to be evicted. So I can't sit back. It was 7,000 people in this district alone that was going to be affected, with 11 million people across the country. And so I had to do something. And of course, we all know that I decided to do my own protest on the steps of the Capitol, which had never happened before. But trying to get that word out, it took 4 nights and 5 days to get people to understand. And after that, I was so beaten up and beat down that I couldn't do the work after that for a while to be able to continue on that message. So that is one thing that I regret, because I know, because sometimes people think that, it's easy because you do have a mic, but we also human. And so I wanted to do so much more with that. I wanted to get more legislation across. I wanted to really have even a bigger impact because there were people that still had need. And so I think I go home with that every day, just like a nurse or just like a social worker or, we go
or
home
pastor.
with, or a pastor. Yeah, absolutely. You go home with that like I didn't do enough. Somebody is still hurting.
Well, Representative, based on all of the past laws, the war on drugs and everything else, we had a lot of brothers and sisters locked up and caught up in the system.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming home every day.
Yes.
Thank God they're coming home. Have you had a chance to take a look at what's available for folks that are coming out of the system, so we can get them, because some of them are unhoused too.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I mean, and I'm not, ladies and gentlemen, I'm definitely not trying to put on the spot, because what I'm saying is more of, have you thought about it and what's out there and going forward? Is that something you can concentrate on? Because I'm just concerned that they're coming home, and I don't want them to go back.
Absolutely.
And that's a big concern.
Absolutely. We have to reduce recidivism, and that's why so one thing is we have worked with organizations who do that work.
Okay.
And also, as a matter of fact, one thing that I did, I believe this was the very first State of the Union, if I'm not mistaken, that I was able to attend. There was someone who went through the program through the Urban League. And we wanted to highlight him, how he was able to, when he was released from prison, how he was able to get really get have change happen in his life, and how he also then gave back to the community. We wanted to highlight that for the whole world. You get one person, each member of Congress gets one person and one policy or whatever that they get to highlight at that time for the State of the Union, and that was mine. And so, but I'll say this: when I was the director of Hope Wealth Center here in St. Louis City, some of our clients were from the Department of Corrections. I worked with many of them. And one thing that they would say is, I want to go back. Within the first 30 days, I want to go back. Wow. Even one, I'll never forget, he was holding his phone. His daughter had given him a phone, and he was sitting outside of my office, and he was trembling, and I'll never forget it. And I walked up to him, and I said, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And he said, "My daughter gave me this phone, and I don't know how to use it. And I don't want to tell her that I don't know how to use it." And so, but we have worked, and our office has worked with so many folks that have come out of prison. And let me say this, it's to the point where, and shout out to all my folks who are incarcerated right now. Your Congresswoman loves you. I love you. They even, in some of the prisons, my name and phone number is on the wall next to the phone. They wrote it on the wall next to the phone, say, if you have a need, call Cori Bush.
Got it.
Be careful, because Adolphus' name is on some walls too, but we won't talk about that.
Oh my gosh!
I know that I think we're wrapping it up. Okay, I guess Congresswoman, because we're wrapping it up. You have the last word, and in that last word, just take us out.
Yeah. So the thing is this: I'm a true believer in minding your mission. Looking at who am I, what am I supposed to do, why am I on this earth, what is my purpose, what do I need to do? It's not about me, it's about them, it's about what I can bring. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. I am worried about the people who have a need, who have that great need and aren't being seen, aren't being heard. So that is my work first, is to make sure that St. Louis is taken care of. So if you have a need, if you don't know who to talk to, I don't care if you're in an abusive situation, or if you just lack food, if you're looking for a job, if you have an immigration situation, call our office at 314-955-9980. Speak to our congressional office. We want to help. That is why we're here. I'm fighting for my life against $20 million to be able to stay to do this work. It does not put more money in my pocket. It does not. I don't care about a big name. I don't care about a big office or a big chair. I care about big change for every single person in St. Louis. That is my heart. And just remember that your Congresswoman, I love you so much that I fight for you every single day, even if we have never met.
Ladies and gentlemen,
put a pin in it.
That has been Congresswoman Cori Bush of the 1st Congressional District. We thank you very much for always tuning in to Point Black. I am the Reverend Darrell Gray.
and sometime I'm a Dolphins fan.
Depends on what number. Depends on what number is on that wall.
Sometime.
God bless you, and we'll see you on the radio.